Welcome to the Cloud Council. This is where business IT leaders who have been there and done that share insights into their career and personal development. We're very pleased on the Cloud Council to have Eileen Jennings-Brown. She's the head of IT at the Wellcome Trust and one of Computer Weekly's top 50 most influential women in IT. How does that title sit with you, Eileen?
In terms of being on the top 50 Computer Weekly's most influential women, that was a real surprise actually, and I suspect that that's a byproduct of all the hard work and experience that I've had throughout my IT career, which spans in excess of 23 years now.
Well,
wow, I got into IT over 23 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, take us back. You were, I believe, a legal secretary who had an opportunity to take a role in a technology position. And you weren't, I believe, at the time necessarily qualified, but you backed yourself and you said, I can do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Self-belief. I was a legal secretary for a business in Edinburgh. And I basically found myself a bit of a loose end sometimes. So I was using a product called WordPerfect. I picked up the book. I taught myself this book. It was about 1,000 pages. I taught myself this book back to front, and I became known as the person who could help with anything to do with this particular product. Back then, it was just a terminal that we had. I've actually never told anybody before that my background was as a legal secretary, and that's more to do with I don't really want to be judged. I don't think that defines who I am. I think that the way I like to be defined is on my capability and what I can do for you. So I don't necessarily talk about it because I don't believe in judging people, which probably leads into the diversity and inclusion conversation that we've been having. So as legal secretary, I taught myself the book. Then I moved to a new organisation and I got friendly with the IT support team. And I became the person who would just fix stuff in the office, still a secretary, but I just kept pushing myself. I wanted to understand how these things worked. I always wanted to try and better myself. And I ended up putting myself in front of the IT director. I said, I want a job in IT. Give me a job. I want a job. And I got the service desk, who were based in London at that time, to say, oh yeah, Eileen, she'll fix it. And eventually, because I was in Edinburgh, I got a job in IT. And the IT director at that time, I think, gave me an opportunity. He needed somebody who could support Edinburgh, Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester offices. I was in Edinburgh. I wanted a job in IT. And they said, well, let's take a chance. Here you go. And I got the job. And I just worked really, really hard. I also had bought myself a computer. And I taught myself that computer inside out. And then really from there, when I got this job in IT, I put myself out there. I pushed myself really hard. I did lots of learning in my own time. I wasn't technically trained. I actually trained myself. And then eventually, as my career progressed, and I just put myself out there and went for jobs that probably I couldn't do at that point in time, but I sold a really good story, and I knew that I was able to do it if I was given an opportunity. Now, that's possibly a little bit unusual for women because they talk about women not necessarily putting themselves forward for a job because they look at a thing and they think, oh, I can do 50% of it, so I'm not going to do it. But I have the mindset where I believe anything is possible. You just have to try, and you will learn the level of your capability by taking the opportunity and trying. And actually, it's not everything's for everybody. So I've just pushed myself really hard and ended up in a place where, I appear on this top 50 most influential women in UK tech.
I do, and I must say this as an out-and-out compliment. I don't think one ends up there. I definitely think you're underestimating a lot of the things you've done to progress. But just briefly, and I suppose it's a two-sided story about being a woman in IT. And particularly given you were somewhat of a pioneer, you talk about 20 or so years ago, now not so much of a thing, but were you looking up to a particular woman in that sector that you wanted to emulate? And again, there's a great story you tell about turning up to, whether it was to sort out someone's infrastructure or otherwise, and they were somewhat surprised to find that it was a female as opposed to a male.
Yeah, I mean, so two questions there, great questions. I didn't have, when I look back and reflect, there wasn't any woman that I, in the IT industry that I looked up to. But I actually, looking back now, I feel like I'd quite like to be a woman in IT that others can look to and think, you know, anything is possible, actually. She didn't come from an IT background. She's not university educated. And yet here she is on the top 50 most influential women in UK tech. And she's singing the good cause for underrepresented groups. This is not just about women. This is just about any underrepresented group and helping raise the voice. I think the question that you said about the past experiences as a woman in IT, I was quite motivated by the challenge that I met being a woman in IT. And I do remember many occasions, one in particular sticks in my mind where I turned up at a client's site. I am a feminine woman, so I like heels and nail polish and long hair and makeup and all the rest of it, and skirts. So I turned up at this client's site, had very long blonde hair, and I was in a skirt suit with my laptop. I said, I'm here to fix your network. And they just looked me up and down as if to say, really? You're going to fix the network? And I thought, yeah, actually, I am going to fix your network. And not only am I going to fix it, I'm going to do a better job than any guy is ever going to do. And that drove me. I was really motivated by that. And it's actually helped me because I've built a good reputation as somebody who, I ended up being somebody that clients would actually request. Yes, so I was novel, and I knew that it was a novelty having a woman. I knew that when I went into a business to do a thing, I was not only going to have to prove myself to be as good as a man, but that I was better. And it's been something that I've done throughout my career. I just push myself really hard. But being faced with that has helped drive me to prove, yeah, I am just as good. But I never put that down to being about my gender. I put that down to being about the fact that I wasn't university trained.
But take us into that. I think it's fair to say you would have had a steely determination, you still have, to achieve and succeed and drive yourself. And look where it's got you. It's successful. In terms of when you're recruiting, and you're at a senior level now, but looking down, and I believe you have a team of 65, and I would imagine there's a fair representation of all different individuals. But is there now a recruitment process you have? Are you looking for personal traits as well as qualifications? Do you have a kind of code internally about, I need to hire people with these traits? And perhaps kind of looking back, was there a course that you wish might have been available to you when you were at the beginning of your career?
Yeah, so hiring now, one of the things that I am very clear about is that I don't expect people to be university trained. And I have a real problem when I see this on job adverts. I think that if that is a prerequisite, then you're missing out on some fantastic people out there who just don't have the opportunity. I had a mortgage at 18 years old. I was working. I wasn't being educated. I am all self-taught. That's not to say that I haven't taken opportunities throughout the rest of my life and been educated in other ways and done technical training, etc. But so I always look for people who are inquisitive, know how to find the answer if they don't know it, are honest and humble, and recognize their own limitations. I look for people who are self-aware, who have emotional intelligence and can actually put themselves in the shoes of other people and view things from their perspective. So these are the soft skills. I probably place more value on soft skills than actual capability at interview stage. I do look for experience, but what the experience tells me is whether they can hit the ground running or not, and then how much time would I need to invest in getting them the experience that is needed for the level of the role that they would be applying for. I am a big proponent and supporter of developing staff. So one of the things that I will do, and I am committed to doing in the organisation, is being transparent about roles and opportunities, giving everyone an equal opportunity, and trying to promote and develop from within. So grow our own first, not just bring in the new resource from outside. So one of the ways that we do that is secondments. And I will say, well, let's create a 6-month secondment opportunity for a person and just give them a chance.
Great idea.
Another method that I apply is I give space. I give people the space that they need to grow and to show me what they're capable of. Now, this is applying a technique called intent leadership. There's a really great story from a guy called David Marquette, who's written a book called Turn the Ship Around. Highly recommend you read it. You read it and read it. But this is about intent-based leadership. And what you do is you put the decision-making where the information is, instead of the information being pushed up to the decision makers, i.e. people like me. It's quite disempowering as a leader, and you do have to sit back and you do have to give your team the space in order to learn from some of their mistakes. But it's incredibly rewarding. You're building successors, you're giving people the opportunities to grow and develop and find out their limitations and their capabilities. And I highly recommend this as a methodology. So when I'm recruiting, I'm looking for people who have an open mindset, who are thinking about these kinds of things. You can teach skills, but you can't always teach a mindset. That's a harder thing to teach.
Eileen Jennings-Brown, we're going to talk about your favourite moments, memories and emotions. It's not too deep or psychological, but what recent film or TV show has moved you and why?
I just rewatched The Sopranos, actually, and I watched it originally. By rewatching it, I learned that I didn't really like that Tony Soprano character, quite frankly. The first time I watched it, I did. So I think that that 10-year gap between watching it and watching it now has made me realize how much more aware I am.
Awesome. Next question. If you were taking your feet towards an empty dance floor, what song would you want to accompany you on the way?
Oh, something upbeat. You know, that is the music of my life. It's got to be upbeat and have a good rhythm and get everyone up. Now, you could say that "Come On Eileen" song, because that is the song that kind of defines me. But I would want something upbeat. Maybe something by Queen, "Don't Stop Me Now."
Love it. And finally, before flying into space with Elon Musk, knowing that you'd be eating dehydrated protein for months, what would your last 3-course meal on Earth be?
Oh, steak. Absolutely.
Starter?
Steak, medium, mashed potato with truffle oil in it, and garden peas. I absolutely love that combination.
Would you start that with something softer, like maybe a salmon or an avocado?
No, I wouldn't go for starter. I would go straight for the steak. Steak and pudding all day long.
And what's the pudding? Come on, sticky toffee pudding, cheesecake?
Yeah. Oh, my favourite, sticky toffee or chocolate, or I'm terrible sweet tooth.
Welcome back to Earth. Thanks very much, Eileen Jennings-Brown.
Thank you.
What I'm also keen to ask you is, when you're looking at your own relationship, so I suppose not necessarily leading the leaders, but nurturing a relationship with a CIO, with a board, on getting them to buy into your strategy and your style as well. Can you perhaps give us an understanding of for people who are watching, how they might nurture those relationships for their own benefit?
Yeah, I think the most important thing there is trust. And, you know, trust is a big word. How do you build trust? That's a question that comes up often. The way that I build trust is I do the things that I say I'm going to do. If you can do that, you're building credibility. You're demonstrating your capability, that you are reliable, and that is the way in which I nurture my relationship with the CIO. I have a very strong and robust relationship with the CIO. I do deputise for him and do go to meetings with the board, etc., and have to talk through strategies and things like that. So I think that the time and effort that went into building the trust, my credibility, doing the things that I said I would do, has resulted in me being a trusted advisor.
Yeah, I think, and particularly given that you're at the Wellcome Trust with all those various priorities, different teams, each with their own targets, aligned with different motivations. It sounds to me an incredibly tough role. So I'm really pleased that you've been able to share some of that understanding with us. I know that you're going to be with us for future episodes, particularly one around leadership, where you're going to tell us, I hope, and share with us some experiences about how to lead, both leading the leaders and leading the team. But until then, it's been great talking to you here on the Cloud Council. Thank you very much for joining us, Eileen Jennings-Brown.